The international movie star Idris Elba has visited Ghana, and Idris Elba have also raised some various important questions about the continent, why we don't share our stories out of the continent, the importance of storytelling, which have put in African story behind in terms of global matters.
Stories to be told in Africa. There's expertise, there's a capacity to be built in Africa. I think the continent has a lot to offer.
I'm very keen to try and allow people to understand the power of storytelling. I believe that Africa, especially as a continent, needs to hold a narrative, change a narrative. The way I think the world has viewed Africa for a very long time needs a shift. The media concentrates on conflict, okay? But the media is also a storyteller. Government in Africa could really help the continent by operating policy to allow the young people to be bolstered into an industry.
Stories to be told in Africa. There's expertise, there's a capacity to be built in Africa. I think the continent has a lot to offer.
A significant moment, not just for Ghana and Accra, but for the entire continent, to see there is a spotlight on the creative industry. The creative industry has so many opportunities, from business to singing, and we can have it all. This part of our culture, our identity has yet to be explored in a major way. It's being done in places, and we're seeing that growth. But don't forget, it starts with you, the hard work. It starts with places like this. It starts with supporting places like this, so that we can see more talent grow, come through places like this, more entrepreneurship and more innovation. Communities need to work with each other. That's how we grow. Africa has got the most growth potential in anywhere in the world, from its young population to, industries that haven't yet been cultivated on a mass scale. There's a talent pool here that, goes beyond many other countries. So I think it's a great signal to come to Ghana, to come to Africa, and be that interfacing, to show the rest of the world that actually it's a fantastic place to sort of look at in terms of partnership and investment. And Africa could certainly do with some narrative shifts. I very much believe if you see the next king, you will be the next king. I found myself in the middle of a lot of conversations around the creative arts industry, what they call the orange economy, which is a very big economy that has a lot of growth potential in Africa, and how important it is to the narrative shift of Africa, not just as telling stories in films, but just changing the way people see Africa and understand it. So when we think about Africa, and we think about African Americans, and we think about Ghana, Ghana has been for the last 4 or 5 years a sort of a meeting point for African Americans and the diaspora to come around the Christmas time, the holiday time, and reconnect with whatever roots they think they have of Africa. I think it's important to me and Africa and the continent, Ghanaians and Africans in general, that narrative from Africa is controlled by Africans. We need to shift the narrative. Everything's typically about conflict, and I feel like building facilities, capacities, encouraging story makers to tell stories is much needed on the continent.
Achievements that could be put out there in the world, for the world not to know only Africa as a warring continent, but also as a continent that is striving in development, a continent that have a beautiful culture, a continent that have natural resources that could benefit the whole humanity. But the storytelling aspect, we as an Africans have not had the opportunity to tell our story in terms or in a way that will help the continent garner the respect and the dignity it deserves. If you are new here to our channel, kindly subscribe, like and share this video for others to benefit as well. You can also comment down below so that we can also share ideas on how to build our continent, because it's the only place we've got, it's the only place we can call home.